Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about 3 interior design styles that are in and 3 that are out. Now listen, if you get offended easily, then why'd you click on the video? That's your problem, not mine, because you might have one of the 3 interior design styles that are out. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, okay? It doesn't, I arguably do. So it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just things change. Styles change, interior design trends are always moving, and that's why it is important to pick a style that is you, that you actually really enjoy, because what you like never really goes out of style in your own home anyway. But let's just get inspired by some of the new things that are coming through in the world of interior design and take a look at what's out in interior design, because this is the stuff that you're gonna see that shows up in the retailers, and that's ultimately where you're gonna be shopping. So let's get going, let's check them out. Okay, but before we get to the rest of the video, I wanna thank today's sponsor, which is Growtherapy. If you've been following me for a few years, you know that I've had some big life changes over the last little bit. And it has made me have a new appreciation for, first of all, taking care of your mental health, and second of all, for therapy, for speaking to an actual therapist. So Growtherapy streamlines finding a therapist that fits you, whether that's by filtering through therapists, choosing virtual or in-person sessions, or easily switching providers when there just isn't a good fit. So making the first appointment is a huge step, and Growtherapy's quick booking time makes it easy to get support when you need it. They work with 100 different insurance plans, helping sessions to cost as little as $21 with some plans, and you pay per session. So there's no like weird subscription or anything that you're like signing on for forever. And I think that's really great. You're just paying per session. So especially over the last few years, I have really understood the importance of really 2 things. Number 1, dealing with somebody in confidence. So yes, friends and family are great. We love them, but you're not speaking to them in confidence, right? So it changes things because they're too close. They're too close to your life. And just to have somebody who is, you know it isn't going anywhere, that's really important. And second of all, that you have a person who has the tools to be able to help you walk you through some of the challenging situations that you're in. Those 2 things I have recognized. I wish I had more of that in my life before. I think it really would have helped me at times when I definitely needed it. So if you're looking to start therapy or looking to switch providers, check out growtherapy.co/nicklewis. Go check it out there. Link is in the description. And thank you, Growtherapy, for sponsoring this video. Take care of yourself. Now let's get back to the rest of the video. Okay, first style that is out, and this is a bit of a 2 for 1, okay? Because arguably they're different, but they're kind of related. And that is going to be all beige or all green spaces. As you would be like, don't you have a lot of beige behind you? Sure do. You know what I mean? Like, because I like it, and it's fine. Like, you can just like what you like, and that's totally okay. But let's talk about what the all beige look was. We'll give a little history, okay? 2014 to 2015 to 2019, 2020. Gray was the rage, okay? Everybody wanted gray. They wanted moody, they wanted sophisticated. We had the gray wood flooring. We wanted farmhouse. We wanted gray, okay? And it was starting to look a little sickly. She was looking a little pale, and we wanted to warm it up because the pandemic was here and we were all looking for comfort. I don't know, I'll leave that to the psychologists to discuss. But like, basically, we started to see a shift in around 2020 where people wanted warmer tones. They wanted less gray and more warmth. They wanted beige and cream and less like chilly, gravestone gray, if you want to call it that, right? So we definitely saw a move towards warmer colors. Beige being a big part of that. I did a whole video on it. Beige became the new gray. In the world of design, pendulums are always swinging. So gray was really popular, and people leaned heavily into it because they wanted lots of browns and creams and whatever, and they just became really, really popular. Palettes warmed up, but they were overall still fairly neutral because people still wanted those neutral spaces. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We'll get to that in a second. But I do think that palettes definitely warmed up no matter what, and beige was a really big part of that. Green also was huge. If you remember 2022, I always do a color of the year video, which I should do one. And the color of the year comes out every year. The paint cartel, if you will, they're always giving their picks on where they think design is headed in the world of color. And they all agreed, like in a resounding, consensus that green was the color of 2022. So when they came out in mid 2021 and they were predicting the color trends, green was everywhere, right? Think like Dakota Johnson's, kitchen, right? The so-called millennial green that you've probably heard people talk about, right? Where everything was that sort of sage green. There was even a trending TikTok sound, if you remember, where someone was like, ultimately you're gonna turn to sage green. Like became the neutral it's not really a neutral, but it kind of acted like a neutral of choice for everybody. And these spaces were everywhere. These were all green or all beige, or maybe a combination of both, but these spaces were massive. And I think now people are just kind of, it's a little bit played out, and I think people are tired of it. They just, you know, they're looking for a little bit more color. They're looking to play with color that's beyond the one color of the color wheel that was selected. And they're starting to look into other colors that are also beautiful and amazing and wonderful and maybe worth considering. This look definitely hit its peak a few years ago. If you still love it, fabulous, go for it. But I don't think it's necessarily that these colors are going away. I think they're supplemented with other colors that are also amazing and beautiful and make for a little bit more of an interesting dynamic space. So all beige interiors, all green are a little bit out, and we're definitely seeing a trend towards bringing in other colors as well. Okay, which of course brings me to the counterbalance to what is in. If millennial green and all beige is out, the sad beige moms are very upset about it. But what is new is definitely, I would say, I'm gonna call it just a broader earthy palette. So definitely earth colors, earth tones are still big, and they always will be, because as I have said on the channel 1,000 times, Mother Nature does it best. No one walks into a forest and says this place looks dated. It just always looks good because nature is timeless. It is like, that's what she does, okay? She's what she's good for. And it doesn't change a whole lot, but like nature's always beautiful, right? It's always stunning. And so people always will love earth tones because they are very grounding, they're very tranquil. There's just something relaxing about being in a space that is all earth tones. And so they will never really go away. But I just think that instead of going all one color, playing with these monochromatic spaces, although we do always love a monochromatic moment, I do think that people are having a little bit more fun recognizing there are other colors, other earth tones, besides just brown, beige, and green. So you're seeing a lot of rust reds, a lot of burnt oranges, even some different shades of blue coming in here, like darker blue, sapphire blue, like, you know, just different shades that are unapologetically color. So we're not necessarily just always talking pastels. We'll talk about them in a minute. So seeing those sort of basic beiges and greens and supplementing with other colors that fit in the category of earth tones. So red being a really, really popular color over the last couple of years, terracotta, but also burgundy. I think burgundy is the hot color of the moment right now. And those colors are, you know, being used because they're just really gorgeous and they complement each other really, really well, because again, it's an earthy palette. It works in nature. It's probably going to work in your home. And so it's pretty easy, I think, and accessible for people because it's not that hard to sort of pull these earthy tones together and bring them into a beautiful palette. So definitely seeing an evolution of the green and browns and moving more into broader tones that are still earthy, complementary, and it's also really beautiful too. Okay, next up, I'm gonna call this like light and airy Scandinavian is my next style that is out. So again, little brief history lesson, because you know I love, if you're gonna talk about trends, you need to talk about where they've been, because that's where you know where they are and where they're going. Because, you know, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, okay? So basically you got the light and airy Scandinavian. So it's classic Scandi, like I said, like that is, I think, timeless and gorgeous and amazing and always looks good, although it, you know, goes in and out of popularity all the time, because these things do, is basically using a lot of, you know, natural materials. It uses a lot of white, uses a lot of gray, anchors the space with a lot of black, and, you know, uses a lot of oak flooring. Like, you know, it's just a beautiful, timeless, amazing style, but these are the colors that you see being used. It's fairly neutral though. But what we saw in sort of the early 2020s was a lot of these sort of still wanting to maintain that sort of light and airy Scandinavian look, but supplementing it with more sort of pastel colors, which is still part of the Scandinavian sort of ethos. So still using those like soft blues and soft greens. There she is again, right? Those like, but it's meant to sort of, I would say kind of soften the all white, stark white Scandi typical look that you'll see, right? So it's like, okay, I want to dip my toe into color, but I don't want to actually really like commit to some of these big bold colors. And instead, you know, using those sort of pastel powder sort of soft tones being used. And those were really, really popular because again, it's like, how do we take the Scandi space that we loved, but we introduce a little bit more colored? So you see a lot of those pastels being huge. Remember those plastic pastel crates that were everywhere? Like those things, like just a lot more of those softer tones to just create something that felt a little bit livelier than what we saw before. And this was really popular as a way to kind of, you know, create a space that was a little bit of a softer, more accessible, friendlier space than sort of the all white gray interiors that you saw before. I'm also gonna lump cottagecore and sort of like that like soft kind of romantic sort of decor style that has been really popular for, you know, even the grand millennial. So a lot of like faded florals, like a lot of those pastel florals, just those really like agrarian sort of mushrooms and all the rest of this stuff. Like this was sort of part of that story as well, right? A lot of those sort of softer shapes and really feminine touches, but it felt very romantic and very whimsical. And it was a natural extension of the black and white sort of pale oak Scandi that we had seen previously. And this style was really popular, I would say, a few years ago, but now things are shifting. Okay, so now we're seeing this style evolve a little bit. And I think what we're seeing the evolution is what I'm gonna call like a vintage retro revival, specifically looking at like the 70s and 80s. Now, you know, people have talked about the 90s and they're all back, and they're all back, okay? Like Art Deco's back from the 20s, like they're all back. It's just, this is what I mean. It's sort of like this vintage retro sort of space, right? So obviously there's classic vintage. So people are loving, you know, vintage pieces, right? So yes, going thrifting and finding some gorgeous, amazing find. People want something with character. People want something with life. And I think that's the thing, that Instagram aesthetic that was really popular in this Scandinavian pastel sort of space. Everything was really stark and minimalist, and even the efforts to soften it with pastels just isn't as fun, I think, as what a lot of people are now trying to do with bringing out some of those 70s looks. So brown glass, a lot of chrome, really sculptural pieces, funky, interesting furniture. Definitely have seen that in years prior. We've definitely seen the funky 70s, you know, furniture being popular, you know, for a good 5 years or so now. But definitely just people having fun with some of these like vintage sort of decor and vintage sort of looks, these retro sort of 70s spaces, and even into the 80s as well. So think things like wood paneling or rattan. Caning has been super popular for a while. Shag or high pile rugs, which are super popular right now. I do think they're woefully impractical, but I can't deny they are super trendy. You got a lot of like velvets and suede, smoked glass, and like I said, chrome. Chrome is everywhere. I feel like chrome, stainless steel, just any sort of silver metal is just really popular. You're seeing it in furniture. IKEA's really into this. Like they're, you know, they're even there, and they're not always super in on the trends, but even they're like, yeah, we get it. Like chrome is everywhere. Furniture pieces, decor, whether that's candlesticks, whether that's decor pieces, whether that's in lighting, seeing so much more chrome than you even were like 5 or 6 years ago, where honestly, like no one was putting, I didn't see barely any chrome anywhere 5 or 6 years ago when I first started here on YouTube. It was just not incredibly popular, but now it's back and you're seeing it all over the place. So in terms of colors, I would say, again, really feeling that warmth of the 70s, like a lot of burnt orange, ochre, chocolate brown, like avocado green, even some like gold colors are back again. And I think people are just really drawn to this sort of 70s comfort, really textural, something that just feels really homey for a lot of people. It feels really comfortable. And again, it's just an interesting alternative to sort of the black and white pastel, light and airy sort of Scandi spaces that we had seen previously, the more minimalist spaces. And now it's like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be a maximalist, but I want to have a little bit more fun with some shape, a little bit more fun with some texture, a little bit more fun with interesting colors, and actually like unapologetic color. That's the thing, right? It's not just blush pink. It's like pink. Like just let it be pink, let it be blue, right? You don't necessarily have to just stick to things with a little wink of green, and instead you can just embrace like a green sofa or like a green side chair, and you can really have fun with it. We're gonna talk about a lot of color in the next one because, you know, we're definitely seeing that come back in other ways as well. But yeah, I think this is a big part of that story, is this sort of 70s, 80s revival. Okay, next up, which is out, and this one might actually be surprising to people. I said that really Canadian, out. This one might be a little bit surprising, and that is because again, people are like, is it really out? I think it's on the cusp of being out, even if it's not out. And that is gonna be Dopamine Decor. So Dopamine Decor, or, you know, the postmodernism inspired a lot by Memphis and all the rest. It is this very loud, I mean, Grand Millennial was what people were throwing out a few years back, which was a little bit more grandma-y, but what I'm just talking about is like basically this like preschool furniture and decor and things that are made for 8-year-olds, right? And in my opinion, it kind of looks a little bit like it's for 8-year-olds. It's very colorful, it's very bold, it's very funky. And again, like some of it is a little bit 80s and therefore fits into the 70s, 80s revival I was just talking about. But some of this stuff is just like people's need to be wild and crazy and put so much color in their home. This is a direct reaction to, of course, the all beige almond mom stuff I was talking about a minute ago, but also those all white minimalist Scandi spaces, right? We saw this huge push towards lots and lots of fun color and pattern and whatever. And I do think that it's a little bit overdone. Maybe this is wishful thinking on my part, but because I'm not a massive fan of this trend. I think color is great, and we're gonna get to that in a second. I just think that this is a lot. This is a lot, and I think people, if you wanted this style, you would have done it already. Like, I think if you wanted this, you would have done it, and the people that did do it, some of it still love it, but I think some of it are like, maybe I went too hard. Maybe I went too much into this. Maybe actually there's room for color and playfulness without necessarily feeling like I'm in a daycare. And I think that's the thing. People are a little overwhelmed because when you add this much color, it's just everything is screaming at you all the time. And I think that a good design is balanced, and therefore it picks its moments, and then it lets other things sort of be a little bit more quiet and fall in the background. And that's what this style never did. It was always yelling at you, always there for a good time. And again, it makes sense for children because I don't really know children because I'm not always a big fan of them, but I do feel like I'm not a child psychologist, but I do feel like they need the color as part of their motor skills and development or something. But I don't know if you need that when you're 33. So I think the Dopamine Decor trend is on its way out. I do think color is not going anywhere, but I do think that the all screaming at you, preschool set is a little bit overdone. And so that, I think, is a style that is on the way out. Okay, so what is in? What is in, I'm going to call controlled color. And that is a real pushback. Again, we have all white spaces and then Dopamine Decor because people always go crazy. If you haven't picked up on that, by the way, I think that the 3 styles that I'm talking about that are kind of out, it's not that they're out like gone forever and dead and they're bad. I'm not a big fan of Dopamine Decor, but whatever. It's because they swung too hard and they looked crazy on social media and that got a lot of attention, but then people go okay, let's dial it in. And so I think controlled color is the dialed in version of what we just talked about, Dopamine Decor, right? It's like, how do we have fun with color and real color, not the Scandinavian pastel blush pink sheet set that you bought that is okay, I guess we could call that color, but unapologetically saturated color. So again, we're talking not about take the color blue and then add so much white to it that it's essentially the softest of blues, or it's almost an off-white at that point, but instead let's ramp it back up and call blue. And that's really what we're talking about here, but balancing that color with some neutrals and giving some space for some natural materials, some earthy materials that are not going to be screaming at you 24/7. So, you might have a really interesting blue bookcase, for example, but then it's set against wood floors and maybe cream walls, or maybe, some nice other furniture that's there that's maybe a little bit more subtle and not yelling at you all the time. Maybe have a really interesting statement couch, or having some decor pieces that are a little bit more colorful, and having some pieces that are a little bit more balanced and blended and incorporated into the rest of the design, which does feature lots of different natural materials and other colors besides everything being a primary saturated color. So yes, color is big and it's popular, and I do think that we're going to continue to see that. But this is, I think, an evolution or more of a maturing of this Dopamine Decor trend, which is let's pick our moments. Let's find some pieces that are really colorful and having fun, so that because color is important to our psychology. There's color theory, it affects our mood, and color can be a wonderful thing, he says, with a fairly neutral background and not a saturated color in sight. But I will say that, people are having fun with it, and I think that's awesome. I think people are having a really good time bringing in color, but in more controlled ways that incorporate in all the different colors in the space, which includes some neutrals, some color, lots of different colors, and blending them together with all the different tints, tones, and shades that come with those colors. So not just having every color scream at you, but maybe a coordinated, deliberate color palette that doesn't just say, hey, let's have a big blue, but let's also incorporate other tints, tones, and shades of blue along with some neutrals, and now we're creating something that is actually a real color palette as opposed to whatever the heck Dopamine Decor was. So that, I think, is the future. That is a hot design style that is definitely going to, I think, get more popular in time. Okay, so that's it for me today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna leave you here with a video that I did where I did something similar. 3 interior design trends that are in and 4 that are out, because I did that a little while ago and you all loved it. And I think it kind of shows where we've been. So if you liked this video to see where we are now, I think you'll really enjoy where we were then, because it does inform the trends that we're seeing right now. So go check out that video and I will see you all in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.